An update on our breaking news this hour. Federal Judge Eileen Cannon has dismissed the classified documents case against former U.S. President Donald Trump. Cannon ruled that the prosecution is in violation of the Appointments Clause of the Constitution. Special Counsel Jack Smith can appeal this decision, but at least for now, this case is over. Now, this on top of the weekend assassination attempt targeting Trump, and with the Republican National Convention getting underway, we've just confirmed with sources that Trump is expected to announce his vice presidential pick within the next few hours. I want to bring in defense attorney Misty Marris into the conversation to join us. So, Misty, just your initial take on this really, surprising for most legal analysts that we've spoken to decision by Eileen Cannon.
Absolutely surprising that this case was dismissed. And if you recall, when we were listening to the arguments that were taking place before in Judge Cannon's courtroom relating to the appointment of Jack Smith, many of us were surprised at how expansive that inquiry was, that there were experts being called in on both sides to talk about whether or not this appointment was constitutional, to go through the legal issues. So odd to have outsiders come into the courtroom and be testifying regarding the appointment of a special counsel. Now, fast forward to today, we see the ultimate result was a determination that Jack Smith's appointment was not constitutional, effectively stating that anything that happened in the case is completely scrapped because that appointment was not constitutional from the get-go. So this decision to dismiss the case, very surprising this morning.
What does this mean for others, aside from the president, who were indicted in this specific case?
So this decision is what's called persuasive authority, meaning it's not binding on the other courts. This is a federal circuit court in Florida, a federal district court in Florida. That means that it's only persuasive authority, meaning other courts can take it into consideration, but it's not necessarily the law of the land at this juncture. Now, that being said, of course, you're going to see others who have been impacted or prosecuted by a special counsel. Specifically, we're going to see Trump try and use this decision with respect to the Washington, D.C. prosecution by Jack Smith. We could see Hunter Biden using this decision with respect to his prosecution by a special counsel to say that these appointments themselves were not constitutional, and therefore the D.C. case has to stop, and Hunter Biden could seek to overturn his conviction on those grounds. So again, it's not binding authority. This is something that's going to have to work its way through the appellate court system, but it's certainly a means for the defense attorneys to use to try and attack those prosecutions and convictions.
And it's expected to be appealed by the prosecutors here, by the Justice Department specifically, because as we're told, this is a decision that has to be made by the Attorney General and not by Jack Smith. But it is likely to be going now to the 11th Circuit once again, a conservative court, but one that has rebuked and overruled some of Judge Cannon's decisions in the past. Can you talk about that process then? Because I would imagine that then that could go all the way, if it's appealed by the defense, if they don't like that decision, back to the Supreme Court.
Yes, so my crystal ball says we're definitely going to the Supreme Court at some juncture, but let's take it step by step. So here's what happens next. This decision is appealed to the 11th Circuit, as you said. The 11th Circuit reviews the decision and makes a determination if and whether or not it's overturned, meaning that it's favorable to Jack Smith and the prosecution. Then the case gets kicked back to Judge Cannon. But as you said, the Trump team has the ability to appeal that as well. Now, if it's upheld at the 11th Circuit and the 11th Circuit agrees with Judge Cannon, well, that's the opportunity for the prosecution, for the Attorney General to take this to the Supreme Court. Now, we've had other courts reject this argument. The Supreme Court steps in when courts don't disagree. We call it a circuit split, that there's federal courts around the country who have come to different conclusions on certain issues. So this particular issue, because both sides are going to appeal it, no matter which way the 11th Circuit comes out, one side isn't going to stand down. We're going to see this issue very likely go to the Supreme Court to determine those parameters. A special counsel, what is the appointment process? What does Congress have to do? What is the executive power to answer all those questions moving forward? I don't see a world where this does not go to the Supreme Court.
Because, as you said, this is likely to be raised and used by the defense now before Judge Chutkan in Washington, D.C. Her decision may be very different from that of Judge Eileen Cannon, once again setting this question of ambiguity that may need to lead all the way to the Supreme Court. In the meantime, only benefiting Donald Trump, once again kicking the can long down the road. Misty Marris, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much. It's always great to see you.
Thank you so much.